The story takes place at a university where the lives of the students follow their normal course, full of classes, meetings, and partings. A dark-haired young man entered the classroom, looking for a place to sit as the class was already settling in. Suddenly, a blonde classmate called him, pointing directly at him. The guy in the black jacket became visibly uncomfortable with the unwanted attention. With an air of superiority, the blonde simply told him to be quiet, as if the dark-haired guy was making some noise. Not wanting to create a scene, the dark-haired guy just looked away, ignoring the provocation. The others seemed to be enjoying the situation. Meanwhile, in the hallway, a pink-haired boy, wearing a baggy sweatshirt, accidentally bumped into a classmate, causing a small mess. The impact was unexpected, and the young man was totally embarrassed, rubbing his head as he tried to apologize for what happened. In the confusion, the girl's wallet ended up falling on the floor. He quickly picked up the wallet and returned it to her, who thanked him, a little embarrassed by the situation. Soon after, the pink-haired boy entered the same classroom, passing by the pair who were arguing moments before. His presence did not go unnoticed, mainly because of his size. He sat down in an empty seat, trying to shrink and not attract attention, but he was already giving off an aura of tiredness. But it was too late. Someone in the room had already noticed his arrival and started making mean comments out loud. An upperclassman began to openly insult him, complaining about having to share the same space with him and using cruel words to describe him. The blonde commented to the dark-haired guy how unpleasant that scene was. He then turned to his classmate and asked why he put up with it all in silence, questioning whether he didn't feel angry about the situation. The dark-haired guy, however, was not paying attention to his friend. He felt a fixed gaze coming from behind him and turned to see who it was, already with an expression of discomfort. The hooded guy was caught red-handed. He didn't expect the upperclassman to turn around right at that moment, and shame took over him instantly. The upperclassman didn't understand anything. He wondered why that freshman insisted on staring at him, even after being caught several times. That was already irritating him. Completely embarrassed, the young man hid his face on his desk, wishing a hole would open in the floor for him to disappear. The upperclassman's irritation suddenly turned into something else. An absurd idea went through his head. He came to the conclusion that this guy must be interested in him. For the dark-haired guy, the reason for the look was too obvious. Meanwhile, the hooded guy was in his own world. The upperclassman had looked at him. The emotion was so much that his heart felt like it was going to explode. He could hardly believe that their eyes had met. For the young man, that little moment meant everything. The class continued with most of the students scattered or uninterested, as it was just an elective subject. At the end, the teacher dismissed the class, asking them to hand in the assignment the next day. Class was over. As soon as class ended, the upperclassman got up abruptly, scaring the blonde friend who was next to him. He was decided. He declared to his friend that he was going to resolve that situation with the freshman once and for all, that very day. The room gradually emptied until almost no one was left. The hooded guy was still there, lost in his thoughts, until a sudden presence made him look up, startled. It was the upperclassman, standing right in front of him. Rhetorically, he asked who else would be there besides him. The confrontation he wanted so much was about to begin. Without mincing words, the upperclassman got straight to the point. He demanded to know why the freshman insisted on staring at him in that sinister way, making it clear how much it bothered him. He continued, questioning whether the guy had an ounce of shame or consideration for how the person receiving that look felt. The freshman, in turn, was having a complete short circuit. The upperclassman's proximity and intensity were too much for him to process. Annoyed by the lack of response, the upperclassman decided that he had had enough of hiding. He advanced, determined to rip off that hood to finally see the guy's face. And with a tug, he finally managed to expose the freshman's face, who, until then, had lived hidden under the hood. But what the upperclassman saw took him by surprise. The freshman's face, now fully visible, was nothing like what he expected. For a moment, the upperclassman was speechless, processing the image in front of him. That boy. He was unexpectedly handsome. Completely exposed, the freshman could only hide his face in shame, hardly believing that the upperclassman had finally seen his face. The upperclassman's mind began to analyze. Despite the guy being a little chubby, he noticed. The young man's heart raced. He panicked at the simple possibility that the upperclassman had seen his face, feeling such intense shame that he just wanted to disappear. But it was too late to hide. In one swift motion, the upperclassman grabbed his face, leaving the poor guy completely stunned and with no chance to react. The upperclassman stared at him with an air of superiority, clearly amused by the freshman's reaction. That look said it all. He had found his new target of interest, and he didn't intend to let go anytime soon. Without wasting a second, the upperclassman lunged forward and began to squeeze the freshman's face, turning it from side to side. Caught off guard, the younger man was completely paralyzed, unsure how to react to this sudden humiliation. The freshman was completely paralyzed, not understanding the upperclassman's sudden attitude. His mind went blank, and he could only react with pure confusion. The upperclassman approached with a provocative air, clearly enjoying the freshman's reaction. For the young man, that sudden closeness was simply too much to bear. The newbie was speechless, completely intimidated by the upperclassman's presence. The sudden approach left him totally disconcerted, not knowing what to do or say. But then the upperclassman confessed that speaking only of his face, the newbie was exactly his type. He said it bothered him to see someone so beautiful listening to such nonsense. Without giving the boy time to process, the upperclassman leaned over the table, completely cornering him. The dominant attitude panicked the newbie. He moved even closer and, holding the newbie's chin, promised that he would support him in everything. He said the process would be difficult, but they would make him unrecognizable. The newbie's head spun, trying to understand what that meant. That's when the upperclassman revealed the condition. In exchange, they would have to lie together whenever he wanted. The indecent proposal hung in the air, making the atmosphere heavy. The upperclassman stared at him, waiting for an answer to that shocking offer. The shock was so great that the newbie's brain simply stopped working. He short-circuited, unable to believe what he had just heard. With an air of knowing what he was doing, the upperclassman explained that he needed to test the sexual chemistry before dating. He even used slang to make his intention very clear. The newbie felt a chill run down his spine. The pressure of that proposal was overwhelming, and he didn't know how to escape that situation. Despite the panic, part of him seemed to consider the offer. The chance to change, offered by the person he admired so much, was too tempting to ignore. Seeing the hesitation, the upperclassman delivered the final blow. He said that, with a face like that, all the effort would be worth it, treating the newbie like a prize to be won. The whole scene was watched from afar. The upperclassman's friend could only think about how vulgar he was, a fanatic for pretty faces, and completely obsessed with intimacy. Suddenly, the newbie jumped up, startled but determined. He realized that this was a unique opportunity, a chance to get something from the upperclassman. Even scared, he thought it was lucky that at least the upperclassman liked his face. That was enough for him to take a chance. A victorious smile appeared on the upperclassman's lips. He knew he had gotten what he wanted, and, without further ado, declared that they would start that very day. The newbie was completely lost with the upperclassman's statement. He had no idea where they would start, and the whole situation left him speechless. But the upperclassman already had a plan. With a confident gesture, he revealed the first step. They would go straight to the gym. The transformation would begin with the body. Without much choice, the newbie just followed him. They had barely started running, and he was already out of breath. The minimal effort to keep up with the upperclassman's pace felt like a marathon. Each step was a sacrifice, and his body was already begging for help. He tried to keep up, but it was simply impossible. The boy could barely lift his feet off the ground. A few minutes later, he collapsed on a bench, completely exhausted. The first day of support already felt like torture. Suddenly, a bottle of water appeared in front of him, catching him by surprise. It was the upperclassman who watched the scene with an almost provocative calm. Without seeming to have broken a single drop of sweat, he noticed that the newbie wouldn't stop staring at him and scolded him, telling him to stop looking like that, or he would end up making a hole in his face. There was a tone of amusement in his voice, as if he was enjoying the effect he had on the boy. Caught in the act, the newbie turned completely red. The upperclassman's presence was so overwhelming that he couldn't hide how impressed he was. The boy's exaggerated reaction seemed to take the upperclassman by surprise for a moment. The upperclassman looked away thoughtful. The newbie's intensity was something he didn't yet know exactly how to deal with. At the gym, the workout had barely started and there were already problems. Another guy, too strong for his own good, apologized for simply destroying a treadmill with his uncontrolled strength. And it wasn't the only equipment that suffered. Apparently, the entire gym was at risk that day. Meanwhile, the newbie tried to focus on his own exercise. He pushed himself to the limit with the dumbbells, determined not to disappoint. Sweat ran down his face. Each movement was a test of endurance, but he continued, focused on his goal. His body trembled with the effort, showing how heavy that workout was for him. Suddenly, the rookie sensed a presence approaching from behind. It was the veteran, arriving to supervise the exercise. The dark-haired man touched the guy's side to correct his posture and asked if he was done with his ab workout. The simple touch was enough to completely destabilize the rookie. The hooded guy's face turned red instantly. The veteran's proximity was overwhelming, and he could barely breathe. The veteran leaned in even closer, wrapping around him from behind in a corrective gesture. For the rookie, that was the last straw. In a fit of panic, he shouted "No!" and jumped up, leaving the veteran surprised by the reaction. Without a second thought, the rookie dropped the weights and ran away at full speed. The veteran was left behind, not understanding why he ran so fast. Alone, the veteran reflected that his intention was just to tease him a little. He didn't imagine the reaction would be so extreme. He ran his hand over the back of his neck, still processing the sudden escape. The rookie's intensity continued to surprise him. It was then that he realized something. Despite the baggy clothes, he noticed that the rookie's physique was much more impressive than it seemed. The scene changed, leaving the gym behind. The day continued, but the encounter between the two had created a completely new tension. After fleeing the gym, the veteran finally caught up with the rookie on the street. The chase was over, but the conversation was just beginning. The rookie could barely stand, completely exhausted. Meanwhile, the veteran was already dictating the rules of the diet, explaining that he could only eat what he ordered for delivery. Halfway there, however, something completely diverted the hooded guy's attention. A window full of sweets made him stop instantly, totally hypnotized. He was fascinated by the cakes and macarons, with his face practically glued to the glass. The veteran right behind him was already losing patience with the distraction. The guy couldn't take his eyes off the confectionery, completely oblivious to the world. The veteran just watched, clearly annoyed by the lack of focus. The veteran reprimanded him, questioning whether he really wanted to throw all the training in the trash because of sugar. But then, he seemed to reconsider, perhaps offering a deal. The simple idea of not being able to eat the sweets was too much for the rookie. The despair was so great that he began to cry tears of blood in total drama. Without the slightest patience for the show, the veteran started slapping the rookie on the back, telling him to pull himself together and stop the scene. Still whimpering, the rookie complained that the veteran's plan was too cruel. The diet and the heavy training were killing him. The veteran then changed his tone. With a confident look, he told the rookie, whom he called Han Daol, to just trust him and follow his instructions. The words had an unexpected effect. The rookie's heart raced and, completely flushed, he could only call the veteran Sonbai. As they walked away, the veteran continued the lecture, saying that the rookie was so hungry that he was already devouring even words. The hooded guy was just fuming with shame. Later that night, the rookie finally arrived at his building, exhausted, but having survived the day. He entered his apartment, announcing his arrival to someone named Cherry. It seemed he didn't live alone. And to his surprise, Cherry wasn't a person, but his pet cockatiel, who flew to greet him with joy. After the exhausting day, the rookie finally arrived in his room, confirming to his cockatiel that he was home. The exhaustion finally hit him hard. Without even bothering to take off his coat, he simply collapsed on the floor, completely exhausted by the training routine and the tension with the veteran. His room was a complete contrast to the image he gave out there. A sanctuary of cuteness, full of stuffed animals and everything in shades of pink. On the bed, an unfinished knitting project awaited him, revealing another of his secret hobbies that no one at college could imagine. Already in his favorite teddy bear pajamas, the rookie felt at home. There, in that space, he could finally let his guard down and be himself. With a feeling of comfort, he threw himself on the bed, ready to finally rest his body and mind. But the relief was short-lived. The muscle pain from the intense training at the gym began to take its toll, and he cringed, feeling every fiber of his body complain. He felt like he was going to die of pain, but one thought kept him going. Despite all the suffering, he loved spending time with the veteran. The memory of the promised reward made him sit up in bed, completely embarrassed. A simple kiss on the cheek was more than enough motivation to endure anything. He then turned to his only confidant, the cockatiel Cherry, and confessed once again that Sangnam, the veteran, was the person he really liked. As he resumed his knitting, he got lost in thought, remembering all the qualities that made him admire his sonbai so much. He remembered how the veteran was an amazing person, always standing out as the best in the class and shining in everything he did. In addition to being intelligent, the veteran had a strong initiative and a spirit of leadership, which explained why so many people followed and admired him. The veteran was the personification of everything the rookie wasn't, but secretly wanted to be. A figure who seemed to shine on his own. All this admiration came from a very deep place. Since childhood, the rookie was seen as strange and was always avoided by others, an experience that marked him forever. This admiration came from a deep place. Since childhood, the newbie had felt like an outsider, always shunned by others, an experience that marked him forever and made him close himself off in his own world. At school, classmates would bully him, demanding that he speak properly and threatening him. The newbie tried to explain himself, but the words just wouldn't come out, reinforcing his image as a weirdo. This feeling followed him even on the street, where a lady complained about his size and asked him to get out of the way. He could only apologize, feeling like a burden for simply existing. The truth is, behind that intimidating appearance, there was a completely different person. In his room, the newbie found peace in delicate hobbies like knitting. Surrounded by teddy bears and in the company of his little bird, he allowed himself to be who he really was, a gentle and sensitive young man who loved cute things. But his sensitivity was so great that even a small scare from his bird made him burst into tears, showing how fragile he felt inside. And that led him to a dilemma. Even if he managed to change his body to be what the senior wanted, would the sonbai still like him if he discovered his true personality? The doubt consumed him from within, emptying all the hope he had. The feeling of discouragement was so great that he felt completely powerless. Lying in bed with his stomach growling with hunger, he asked his little bird, Cherry, for help, as if seeking a sign that he could overcome it all. It was then that, from outside the gym, a familiar voice called his name, Han Daol. It was the senior who seemed to be looking for him. Just hearing that voice made Daol's heart race. Pressure and nervousness took over him right away. But despite all the fear and insecurity, he was there, back at the gym, determined not to give up and to face his own limits. He took the first step, committing himself to the difficult journey he had chosen for himself, all to get closer to the person he admired so much. Upon encountering Handaol at the gym, the senior was confused. The newbie, in turn, proudly announced that he had managed to lose 5 kilos, hoping for some kind of recognition. Daol was so excited that his imaginary tail was wagging non-stop, but the senior didn't seem at all impressed with the news. The hooded boy was completely embarrassed, waiting for some approval. The senior, however, just watched him in silence, processing the situation. His patience seemed to reach its limit, and it was no wonder. At another point, his blonde friend commented that it was obvious that someone was watching him all the time. The senior didn't understand what he was talking about, as he had never noticed anything strange. But, not far away, Han Daol was hiding, completely nervous about almost being caught red-handed. The senior even tried to remember. He had a vague impression of a large figure following him, but he couldn't identify who it was. And in fact, every time he felt he was being watched and turned to look, it was Han Daol, who always managed to hide in time, leaving behind only the feeling of his presence. At another moment, in the library, the senior felt that shiver again and looked back suddenly, and there was Duol, who narrowly avoided being discovered once again. This attitude of constant stalking, pretending that nothing was happening, only made the senior more and more irritated. The situation had already repeated itself so many times that he couldn't take it anymore. The constant presence of the newbie was driving him crazy. And even from a distance, Han Dao saw the senior's stress without realizing that he himself was the cause of all that frustration. In a call, the senior vented about how the constant stalking made him uncomfortable. The newbie's insistence was completely undermining his patience and mood. He remembered a moment when the frustration was so great that he simply exploded, reacting impulsively against Han Daol. At that moment, even he himself was shocked by his own attitude. The accumulated anger had taken him to a limit he never imagined crossing. But back in the present, Han Dao seemed totally oblivious to this stress. With an expression of pure expectation, he just asked to be praised for his effort. The senior dropped his bag on the floor, still processing the request. He thought that even if the boy lost another 15 kilos, even so, his appearance wouldn't change that much. The problem was never Dao's weight, but rather his insistent and clueless attitude that drove him crazy. Still, he had made a promise. Even against his will, the senior decided that he would fulfill his part of the deal to end the matter once and for all. He approached and made a gesture on the newbie's head, a quick pat just to get rid of that situation quickly. To his surprise, Han Dao's reaction was completely unexpected. The boy seemed to like the affection too much, acting like a pet. The situation got even weirder when the senior, perhaps to test the limits, mentioned the possibility of a kiss as a reward. The mere mention of the word was enough to leave Han Dao completely paralyzed, plunged into a shame that left him speechless. The hooded boy seemed to want to hide inside his own clothes, totally caught off guard by the proposal. Seeing the rookie's exaggerated reaction, the veteran regretted it instantly. He realized that the situation had gotten out of his control, and now he didn't know how to fix it. But Han Dao's mind was already elsewhere. He didn't see the veteran's regret, only the possibility that the kiss could happen. Later. It was then that the rookie seemed to come back to reality, noticing that they weren't alone in the gym. The presence of other people was the only impediment in his head. Without anything else to say, the veteran simply turned his back and walked away, leaving Han Dao behind, still processing the embarrassing conversation they just had. He didn't look back for even a second, determined to put an end to that weird talk. The veteran sat down on one of the machines, trying to sort out his thoughts. The situation with the rookie was getting increasingly bizarre and out of his control. Meanwhile, he vented to his friend via text, describing Han Dao as a bear cub. Dongju's reaction was pure disbelief, questioning his friend's sanity. The conversation, however, took a provocative turn, with a question that made the veteran give a slight smile. The situation was absurd, but maybe it had its funny side. His brief distraction, however, was interrupted. On the other side of the gym, Han Dao was trying his best on the bench press, trying to prove his worth and maybe forget the shame of moments ago. The rookie's effort didn't go unnoticed. The veteran watched from afar, with an expression that mixed curiosity and a hint of surprise. Suddenly, his attention was diverted by familiar voices approaching. Two young women greeted him, but soon diverted the subject to Han Daol, commenting loudly about how he would need to work out hard to burn off everything he's been eating. Hearing that was like a blow to Handel. All his efforts seemed to be overshadowed by comments about his weight and his diet. Completely ignoring the rookie's discomfort, the two turned their attention to the veteran, flirting openly and questioning why a guy like him was still single. Every word exchanged between them and the veteran was like another weight on Handel's bar. His popularity with other people was something that bothered him deeply. Their insistence increased, with one offering to take good care of him. The veteran kept a smile on his face, but the situation was getting increasingly embarrassing. Time passed and the gym finally emptied. Seeing that they were the last ones there, the veteran called Handel, saying it was time to take a quick shower and leave. Suddenly, the veteran gave Handel a friendly pat on the back, saying that he was, in truth, very proud of him. It was exactly what the rookie wanted to hear. Those words caught Handel completely by surprise. He wasn't expecting this recognition, not after everything that had happened. Taken by an impulse, Handel grabbed the veteran's shirt. He said that since the older man felt proud, maybe he could give him something in return. The veteran was completely confused by their attitude, while Handel asked for the kiss that never happened. The rookie's courage didn't last long. Soon after, shame took over, but he didn't let go of the shirt, keeping his request silent. The veteran's confusion gave way to a discreet smile. He seemed to find the situation, at the very least, interesting. He then stared directly at Handel. The playful mood disappeared, and a different tension arose between the two. Without warning, the veteran grabbed Handel's hood, pulling him close forcefully. But instead of a confrontation, the veteran gave the rookie a kiss on the cheek, leaving him completely paralyzed with surprise. Handel's brain simply stopped working. He couldn't process what had just happened. The veteran walked away with a provocative air, as if he was amused by the boy's reaction. He acted as if nothing much had happened, but that wasn't enough for Handel. Gathering courage once again, he grabbed the veteran's wrist, calling his attention. The distance between them disappeared again. This time, the initiative was all Handel's, who didn't seem willing to let things end that way. In a quick and surprising move, Handel used his weight and pushed the veteran, who fell lying on the bench press, completely caught off guard. Now the roles were reversed. Handel was in control, hovering over the veteran, who could only ask what the hell he was doing. Adrenaline took over Handel. Driven by a feeling he barely understood, the boy approached, determined not to back down this time. The veteran, caught off guard by the role reversal, could only question what was happening. The rookie's audacity left him speechless, and then reality hit hard. Handel realized what he had just done, and panic replaced all his courage. His soul practically left his body. Completely regretful and ashamed, he threw himself on the floor, hiding his face. The humiliation was so great that he just wanted to disappear. The boy curled up, plunged into a pit of shame, reliving the impulsive moment in his head. Trying to compose himself, Handel turned around, but he still couldn't face the senior. The whole situation had been too much for him. However, something in the senior's reaction caught his attention. He seemed to have been taken by surprise by his own feelings. That's when Handel noticed. The senior was also embarrassed. He realized that his senpai's ears and neck were completely red. That small discovery filled Handel's heart with joy. Maybe his feelings weren't as one-sided as he thought. Later, the two of them finally left the academy. They walked down the street in a somewhat awkward silence, processing the events that had taken place inside. The senior broke the ice, but not in the way Handel expected. He commented in a teasing tone that the moment on the bench was dangerous and perfect for a kiss. The senior's frankness was a direct hit to Handel's self-control. The rookie burst into embarrassment once again, totally unprepared to deal with that kind of teasing. He hid inside his hood, trying to ignore the senior's words, who seemed to be having a lot of fun with the situation. The senior continued to tease, saying that he found Handel surprisingly cute. He was amused by the fact that the rookie got scared by small things, but at the same time had the audacity to offer his lips like that. The contradiction seemed to fascinate him. Caught off guard, Handel didn't know what to do with his hands, feeling completely exposed. The boy panicked, trying to defend himself and deny everything, but the shame was so great that the words simply wouldn't come out. Defeated, he just lowered his head, accepting the embarrassment and hoping that moment would pass soon. Before they parted ways, the senior reminded him that a promise was a promise, and Han Daol could only agree with a faint voice. With the matter settled, the senior went his way, visibly satisfied, leaving a completely shaken Han Daol behind. Back at home, the rookie was still trying to process the whirlwind of emotions he felt that day. He tried to use knitting to calm down, an activity that usually helped him put his thoughts in order. However, his mind was so consumed by recent events that, without even realizing it, his hands created exactly the image he was desperately trying to forget. Seeing the result, Handal felt like a lost cause, convinced that he would never be able to act normally around the senior. The atmosphere in the room became so heavy that even inanimate objects seemed to feel the boy's anguish. He abandoned the knitting project on the table, frustrated that his own subconscious had betrayed him in that way. Looking for a new distraction, Han Daol turned on the computer, determined to find something that would finally make him forget what happened. He started browsing, looking for a new knitting project that could occupy his mind and ward off thoughts about the senior. Then he found a sweater pattern and decided he would make it with his own hands, a piece that, in his mind, would look perfect on the senior. But when searching for more references for that pattern, his expression changed completely. What he found was not an ordinary sweater. They were extremely daring and revealing versions of the piece, something he never imagined. And the examples that appeared on the screen only got worse, one more shocking than the other. Han Daol was completely speechless, questioning how deep the neckline of that garment was. Shame took over him. The simple image was enough to leave him totally embarrassed. With his face burning, he shrank into the chair, trying to process what he had just seen. Meanwhile, his little bird watched everything with the greatest tranquility in the world, oblivious to its owner's internal chaos. And that's when his imagination went too far. A forbidden thought crossed his mind. What if the senior wore that outfit? Reality hit him like a punch. The shame of having such a bold thought was overwhelming, and even his little bird seemed to be judging him. But in the midst of the shame, something else started to happen. A strange sensation that he couldn't control. His body reacted in a totally unexpected and uncontrollable way. In a panic, he realized that the situation had gotten much, much worse. The shame was so great that he just wanted to disappear or bury his head in a hole. He realized that lately he had been acting very strangely. Every time he thought about the senior, his body reacted in a weird way. Memories of the tough training with the veteran flooded Han Daol's mind. The promise was to lose 80 pounds, and the process was exhausting, pushing him to his absolute limit. For Han Daol, even seeing the veteran from afar was a joy. Every moment was precious, and he cherished those memories, even the difficult ones. They had agreed to meet at the movie theater to finally celebrate the result of so much effort. The veteran arrived first, as usual. He got out of the car, ready for the date that had been set for so long. Han Daol already imagined he would be punctual. The veteran was never late, and the rookie's anxiety only increased, wondering if he was already waiting. He remembered the suffering he went through, exercising until he almost fainted and eating the bare minimum to survive. For a moment, he thought he wouldn't survive that regimen. In his mind, he wondered how the veteran could be so demanding. But deep down, he knew that all that effort would be worth it in the end. Meanwhile, the veteran was going up in the elevator, heading towards the meeting point. There was Han Daol, already waiting. Huddled in his sweatshirt, he waited anxiously. The wait was tense. After so much time and dedication, the moment to meet again had finally arrived, until finally he spotted him approaching. Han Daol stood up and called out to him. A light seemed to emanate from him, reflecting all his new confidence. The day he had been waiting for had finally arrived. The veteran's reaction was one of pure shock. He couldn't hide his surprise and blurted out an unexpected compliment, saying that Han Daol looked delicious. The rookie was speechless. With the mood already set, the two headed inside the movie theater. That date promised to be the beginning of something completely new for both of them. Han Daol's transformation did not go unnoticed. Everywhere they went, people commented on his new appearance, and the veteran just watched everyone's reaction. All that sudden attention left Han Daol completely embarrassed. He tried to hide in his hood, ashamed of the compliments he could clearly hear, but the veteran wasn't going to let him. He approached and unzipped the rookie's jacket, concluding that, from the general reaction, it seemed that everyone had the same good taste as him. Han Daol, still nervous about the situation, tried to resume a previous conversation. He asked if the veteran still remembered what he had said before, an attempt to touch on his deepest insecurities. The veteran, however, just cut him off, saying that the movie was about to start and that they better go in soon. The evasive answer made Han Daol's mind wander. He remembered all the things he liked, things he considered childish, and that he now feared the veteran would discover and judge. While the veteran sorted out the tickets, Han Daol wondered what would happen if he knew everything. Would he be disgusted? Doubt and fear took over the boy, who could no longer hide his apprehension. Already seated in the movie theater, the tension was palpable. The rookie was visibly shaken by his own thoughts. He shrank into his chair, feeling small and exposed despite his impressive size. The rest of the audience settled into their seats, completely oblivious to the silent drama unfolding between the two. Only the veteran seemed to notice. He noticed Han Daol's concern about the height and found it funny, which surprised the rookie that he had been so thoughtful. The veteran's attention left Han Daol completely embarrassed. He assured him that as long as he was watching the movie with his zombie, he would definitely love it, no matter what it was. The sincere and awkward response amused the veteran, who couldn't help but smile. He found the whole situation much more interesting than the movie that was about to start. Han Daol was even more embarrassed by his reaction, calling his name in a whisper, not knowing where to hide his face. The veteran just continued to smile, moving a little closer, clearly enjoying teasing the boy. Inside, Han Daol was exploding. He could hardly believe it, and thought he was so happy that he was going to lose control of so much emotion. The veteran, on the other hand, maintained a neutral expression, as if he were just observing a very curious phenomenon. During the movie, Han Daol's mind was anywhere but on the screen. He leaned over and whispered to the veteran, asking how long until the movie was over. His anxiety was greater than any interest in the story. When the lights came on, Han Daol commented aloud how amazing the movie had been, trying to disguise his complete distraction. The veteran walked beside him, looking a little indifferent to the rookie's acting. Suddenly, the older man stopped and stared at something with a serious expression, as if he had seen a ghost. The sudden change in atmosphere surprised Han Daol, who didn't understand anything that was happening. In a fit of embarrassment and panic, Han Daol hid inside his hood, while the veteran just stared at him with a face that showed he didn't understand the reaction. Still hidden, the boy muttered something about how the veteran's good looks were practically a superpower, capable of causing all that internal chaos. The whole scene finally made the veteran burst out laughing. He realized that Han Daol's exaggerated reaction was because of him, and not because of something he saw. After the movie theater confusion, the veteran found Han Daol's reaction amusing and invited him for drinks, breaking the ice with a casual invitation. Except the place chosen wasn't just any bar. They entered a much more sophisticated environment, which completely changed the mood of the date. Already sitting at the counter, the expectation was clear. The veteran wanted to know what the newbie thought of it all, waiting for a reaction. Han Daol, completely enchanted, confessed that just being in the veteran's company made even the drink taste special and amazing to him. The boy's sincerity made the veteran laugh. Han Daol was all embarrassed, trying to explain himself, but the truth is that he had completely given himself away in the comments. But behind that laughter, the veteran admitted to himself that it was torture having to control himself in front of someone he found so beautiful. The tension between them was palpable, and a heavy sigh revealed the difficulty the older man felt in maintaining his composure and not making a move. Uncomfortable with the stares of other people, Han Daol approached and whispered that he was embarrassed, imagining that for someone like the veteran, receiving so much attention must be normal. The gesture of closeness and the whisper in his ear only served to further increase the intensity of that moment between the two. The veteran, however, didn't seem bothered at all. On the contrary, he brushed Han Daol's hand away with a look that said he was in total control of the situation. Completely embarrassed, Han Daol just went back to his drink, trying to use the wine to disguise the nervousness that was taking over him. But suddenly, something shocked him. He stopped in the middle of his sip, not believing what was happening right in front of him. The veteran simply took the glass from his hand and drank the rest of the wine, in a bold and totally unexpected gesture that broke any barrier. He placed the empty glass on the table, maintaining eye contact. The attitude made it clear that he was tired of waiting and that his patience had reached its limit. Han Daol understood the message right away. His heart raced, and he wondered if this was the moment he had been waiting for. The night was about to change course. The veteran broke the silence, asking why Han Daol was so spaced out. He made it clear that if they were going to leave, now was the time. Enough stalling. Caught off guard, Han Daol just agreed. The veteran's direct attitude left him completely speechless. But he knew he couldn't back down anymore. For a moment, his mind traveled to the future, imagining the two of them going up in the elevator. That metallic sound seemed to announce the moment of truth, and with that image, panic struck hard. He wondered what would happen to their relationship if, in the end, the two weren't compatible. But then, he remembered all the effort he made to get there. The hours of hard training at the gym, overcoming his own limits. He remembered the veteran training him every day, without rest, using kisses as a reward to motivate him. All that sacrifice was to live this exact moment. Back to reality, the meat was still grilling on the table between them. That moment of anxiety was just a quick detour in his thoughts. He tried to hide it, laughing awkwardly, but the tension in the air was undeniable. The sound of the grill seemed louder than ever, filling the embarrassing silence that settled between the two. The whole situation just seemed to amuse the veteran. He watched Han Daol's nervousness with a smile on his face, finding the newbie's hesitation funny. The veteran leaned back, running his hand through his hair, clearly waiting for Han Daol to finally take the initiative. But his patience had a limit. He questioned whether Han Daol wasn't ready yet, his voice filled with impatient provocation. The question caught Han Daol by surprise, who caught off guard. Han Daol didn't know what to answer. The awkward silence was broken only by the sound of the drink being poured, giving him a brief moment to think about how to get out of that situation. At another time, the veteran and his blonde friend met for a meal. The conversation, of course, soon turned to the newbie. The friend wanted to know how things had gone with Han Daol. The veteran took a sip of his drink, remembering the recent encounter and the strange dynamic between them. But the way his friend described the situation completely shocked him, causing him to choke on his food. An embarrassing and comical silence settled between the two, with the veteran staring at his friend with total disapproval. The comment left the blonde friend embarrassed, realizing that maybe he had gone too far with his teasing. Meanwhile, in a university hallway, Han Daol walked distractedly, completely lost in his thoughts. He walked with heavy steps, the weight of uncertainty on his shoulders. Worried, he wondered if he had ruined everything with the upperclassmen, questioning if his feelings were a mess because of him. Guilt hit him like a sharp blade. The feeling that he always messed everything up began to take over. The regret and anxiety were so great that he needed to crouch down, completely overwhelmed by his own mind. In the midst of this, without realizing where he was going, he ended up bumping into someone and fell. When he looked up, he froze. It was the upperclassman, accompanied by his friend, but he was different, with a completely new look that left him speechless. Han Daol was completely mesmerized by his Sunbai's transformation. The blonde friend, all proud, boasted that the change was, obviously, thanks to his guidance. The upperclassman didn't seem to agree. At the university, the upperclassman's presence never went unnoticed, and he was already used to attracting looks wherever he went. Han Daol, in his old form, could only admire him from afar, completely enchanted by his sunbae. At that time, the upperclassman even noticed the freshman's gaze, but felt only a vague sense that he knew him from somewhere. He even thought about how much someone would need to lose weight to transform into a completely different person. Back to the present, the upperclassman crossed his arm, skeptical. He didn't believe that people could change so easily. In his mind, Han Dao was just the same guy as before, coming back to bother him once again. When the upperclassman tried to leave, Han Dao grabbed him in an act of desperation, calling out to him, but the Samba didn't give a damn, continuing on his way without even looking back. Han Dao ended up falling to the ground, but tried to disguise it, saying that everything was fine and that the noise was nothing. The freshman's insistence was the last straw. The upperclassman's patience had run out completely. He simply turned around and left, ignoring the situation. The scene then changes to a gym, the place where Han Dao's great transformation began. It was there that he trained non-stop, pushing his body to the limit every day. Each exercise, each drop of sweat was part of his effort to become a new person. Meanwhile, in the same gym, the upperclassman was also training, but was constantly bothered by the unwanted attention of other female gym-goers. The upperclassman continued his workout, but his patience was already at its limit. He couldn't concentrate with the mess that someone else was making in the gym, wondering how someone could be so disorganized. And the culprit was Han Dao, who seemed totally oblivious to the upperclassman's irritation, with his wolf ears and tail wagging with excitement. Suddenly, the upperclassman made a drastic decision. He declared loudly that he couldn't take it anymore and that he would have sex that very day, leaving Han Dao completely shocked. The sudden declaration caught Han Dao by surprise, leaving him speechless and totally embarrassed. Without hesitating, the upperclassman pointed directly at the boy, making it clear that his decision included him, and he wasn't kidding. A short time later, the upperclassman was already on top of Han Dao in bed, ready to fulfill what he said. Han Dao tried to protest but was silenced. The upperclassman warned him that he wouldn't tolerate any more nonsense, and that this time he wouldn't escape. He explained that the relationship wasn't something that could be discarded just because of a misunderstanding, and that crying like that wouldn't do any good. Han Dao's response, however, left the upperclassman completely confused. Amidst the tears, the boy tried to explain his true feelings, but the situation only got worse. Exasperated and not understanding what was happening, the upperclassman unexpectedly gave in. He said that if that was it, he would let Han Dao be the top, but that wasn't what Han Dao wanted at all. Already out of patience, the upperclassman asked what the hell he wanted then. Finally, Han Dao managed to explain. He didn't want to rush things, as he wanted them to be able to spend more time getting to know each other better. With his back turned, the upperclassman retorted that he should have refused from the beginning, and questioned how much longer he would have to tolerate that situation. The veteran's words left Han Dao completely stunned, paralyzed by the shock and pain of what he had just heard. Tired of that mess, the veteran declared that it was over. He abruptly released Han Dao, determined to leave once and for all. Before leaving, he delivered one last verbal blow, saying that there were plenty of people in the world for him to be with. Those words were enough to break Han Dao's heart. Completely devastated, the young man could no longer hold back his tears. The cruelty of the comment was more than he could bear. Far away, regret hit the veteran hard. He wondered why on earth he had said something so low and unnecessary. Alone in his apartment, he was trying to process what had happened. The guilt was so great that he could barely look at himself, covering his face in pure frustration. He felt like an idiot, reliving the scene and Han Dao's hurt look. The veteran tried to drown the anger and remorse, but the bad feeling persisted. He thought about all the effort he had put in, feeling that it could all have been thrown away because of a moment of anger. Hours passed, but the veteran's mind remained a mess. The adrenaline from the fight gave way to a void, a confusion he didn't understand. He grabbed another drink, acting on autopilot. A wave of frustration hit him. Lying on the couch, he thought that, in any other situation, he would have simply ignored it and moved on. But for some reason, he couldn't get it out of his head. While the veteran was drowning in regret, Han-dal was trying to deal with the pain in another way, but the emotional hunger was stronger than any diet. Even with everything falling apart, his body still craved food. It was the only thing he had at the moment. He prepared his meal, trying to focus on anything other than the memory of those cruel words. Suddenly, a familiar voice surprised him, offering ramen. It was the veteran, standing there in his kitchen. The older boy flashed a confident smile, as if nothing had happened. But this couldn't be real. Han-dal realized that his exhausted mind was starting to play tricks on him. Reality hit, and the pain came back with a vengeance. The despair was so great that even his little bird was trying to comfort him. He pulled himself together, trying to ward off the hallucination and the sadness that consumed him. Han-dal decided he needed to resolve this. The first thing to do was to go find the veteran and apologize, taking all the blame. But when it came time to act, fear paralyzed him. He couldn't muster the courage to approach, feeling that the veteran wouldn't even look at him. Across the room, the veteran was talking to his friends, oblivious to the rookie's anguish, until he felt a gaze on him and turned his head, noticing Han-dal's presence. His friends continued the conversation, but the veteran's attention was now elsewhere. Seeing that he had been noticed, Han-dal panicked. He thought about simply giving in, giving the veteran what he wanted just to end it. But deep down, he knew that wasn't what he wanted. He didn't want their story to end like that. He was determined, no matter how painful it was. He didn't want things to end like that. Class was finally over. The professor dismissed the class, asking them to hand in their reports next week. Amidst the panic of being noticed, Han-dal began to pack his things hastily. He just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. But suddenly, someone called him, and he looked to the side, confused. A group of girls approached with a smile. They invited him to have lunch with them, wanting to know if he would like to join the group. The proposal caught him completely by surprise. Han-dal, who had always been invisible, was now the center of attention. Across the room, the blonde friend commented to the veteran that Han-dal seemed to be getting popular. The rookie, not knowing how to react, was completely paralyzed by the unexpected invitation. Meanwhile, another student approached the veteran to thank him for some data he had requested. The veteran replied that, being a request from his sunbai, it was clear that he would do it. With a friendly gesture, he even patted the colleague on the head, showing a gentle and caring side. The upperclassman maintained his charismatic smile, the typical popular upperclassman that everyone admired. Han-dal watched that scene from afar. He saw the kindness that the upperclassman was capable of offering to others, but never to him. A heavy silence took over his thoughts. The distance between them seemed greater than ever. The girls, misinterpreting his reaction, excitedly announced that Dal had accepted and wanted to eat a fancy steak. Observing everything, the upperclassman was annoyed. He assumed that Han-dal was simply leaving because he was being ignored, finding the way the newbies seemed to give up so easily pathetic. And so, the meeting at the restaurant happened. Han-dal's friends took him to eat, believing that was what he really wanted, unaware of the confusion that the upperclassmen had understood. The place was fancy and the food looked great, but the atmosphere wasn't celebratory for everyone there. While one of the girls ate without worry, the other began to question Han-dal, asking if he wasn't ashamed of something and telling him to think carefully about what he had done. But Han-dal could barely lift his head. He was completely lost in his own thoughts, oblivious to the conversation around him. His mind went back to a specific moment, a memory that still haunted him and explained everything he felt. He remembered the upperclassman being kind to someone else, petting them and joking about jealousy, a type of attention that Dal never received. He also remembered a moment when the upperclassman approached, an instant of intimacy that left him completely speechless. And the strongest memory was that of an unexpected hug from behind, a touch that made him feel things he didn't understand at the time. At that moment, he realized what he really wanted, for the upperclassman to look only at him, for all that attention to be just his. Suddenly, the voice of one of his friends brought him back to reality, asking why he wasn't eating. They realized that he was completely out of it and asked if something was wrong. their concern was genuine. Han-dol shrank into his chair. The weight of those memories and feelings was simply too much to bear in public. Without understanding the depth of the problem, the friends decided that the best solution was to eat. They encouraged him, saying it was a crime to be sad in front of a steak. Han-dol was silent, processing their attempt to cheer him up. He didn't know what to say. Then he simply grabbed the steak and took a gigantic bite, leaving his friends shocked by the size of the piece. His friend found the scene adorable. Han-dol, on the other hand, was completely embarrassed by his own exaggerated reaction, barely able to chew what he had in his mouth. But university life didn't wait for anyone. Soon, a new school day began, bringing with it the usual challenges. During the selection for a group project, the expression of one of the upperclassmen already showed his total discontent with the situation. The blonde guy next to him also didn't seem at all excited about the formation of that specific team. And to complete the trio of dissatisfied people, a third student just watched with an air of total indifference, as if none of that mattered. It was then that Han-dol snapped. He wondered aloud why the hell he had to do a group project with those people. The tension at the table was obvious. No one wanted to be there, and Han-dol's refusal to cooperate only made things worse. The upperclassman, with his hair tied back, lost his patience. He demanded that Han-dol stop making a scene and sit down at once. The dark-haired guy intervened, but not to calm things down. He needled the upperclassman, saying that anyway, no one there wanted to be in a group with him. The comment caught the upperclassman completely by surprise. He was speechless, visibly shaken by being confronted in such a direct way in front of everyone. While the atmosphere was heavy, the blonde friend just looked away, not knowing what to do. Han-dol, in turn, seemed to have disconnected from the world. But the dark-haired guy wasn't finished. He continued, staring directly at the upperclassman. The upperclassman couldn't believe the audacity. He questioned what they were trying to do with that attitude. Outraged, he asked if they were treating him as if he were invisible. The affront was simply too much for him to ignore. The dark-haired guy just watched, with a calmness that seemed to test the limits of everyone's patience in the room. The upperclassman, on the other hand, couldn't hide his surprise and irritation with the colleague's boldness. Meanwhile, Han-dol short-circuited. He could only watch the tension grow, completely terrified of what was about to happen. With a subtle smile, the dark-haired guy made it clear that he was enjoying the reaction he provoked. He knew exactly where he was poking, and that was enough. The upperclassman exploded, questioning if the guy had gone crazy, but the other just responded with a gesture, unfazed. The discussion heated up, with the veteran completely losing his composure. He challenged the guy to repeat what he said, but received an even sharper response. The dark-haired guy told them to focus on the work, calling the veteran pathetic. A fight seemed inevitable. He continued the provocation, asking if the veteran really wanted to get beat up. Too late, the veteran lunged and grabbed the guy by the collar. The conversation was over. Han-dol panicked. He knew he needed to do something to stop them before the situation got completely out of control. In the middle of the confusion, Han-dol tried to intervene, but was pushed away. His bag fell to the ground, scattering all his belongings. The noise interrupted the fight. The dark-haired guy turned around, surprised by what had happened. The veteran also stopped, still furious, but now his attention was turned to the mess on the floor. For Han-dol, the world collapsed. He froze, feeling a shame that consumed him entirely. His most personal items were exposed for everyone to see, and worst of all, right in front of the veteran. One of the guys picked up one of the knitted items from the floor. With a mocking smile, he asked if this was the kind of thing Han-dol did. Han-dol froze. Shock and shame took over him, as his secret was exposed in the worst possible way. Stuttering, he could only call out to the veteran, as if seeking help that wouldn't come. But the veteran found the whole situation ridiculous. He laughed, calling Han-dol an idiot and mocking his hobby. The other aggressor joined in the humiliation, stepping on one of Han-dol's keychains and questioning him for liking disgusting things like those. He then raised the ball of yarn, displaying it like a trophy for everyone to see. Han Daol just watched, completely defeated. Without any ceremony, the guy threw the ball of yarn. The object hit him squarely on the head, a final blow to his already destroyed dignity. The ball of yarn rolled across the floor, stopping right at someone's feet. Suddenly, the veteran's expression changed. The mocking look disappeared, replaced by something no one could decipher. Han Daol, on the other hand, no longer had the strength to react. He just lowered his head, swallowing the humiliation. His mind was flooded with regrets. He planned to tell the veteran everything that day, but hesitated. Now it was too late. He remained with his head down, without the courage to face anyone. The veteran watched him in silence. The initial mockery had given way to a calm and intense observation. The silence weighed in the air. The humiliation was over, but the tension was almost unbearable, waiting for what would come next. The distraction was sudden. As the dark-haired guy bent down to pick up his ball of yarn, his cell phone fell to the ground, surprising the blonde friend who was watching the scene. Before he could react, a hand was faster and grabbed the ball of yarn tightly. But the dark-haired guy was even faster, holding the veteran's wrist. He warned him to stop messing with innocent people and just do his job as a veteran. The veteran was shocked by the intervention. The initial surprise quickly turned into pure anger at being confronted in that way. Han Daol watched everything, not believing that someone was defending him. The guy then gave a final warning to the veteran. He was to shut his mouth and graduate in silence. Tired of the situation, Han Daol snapped. He shouted that he would no longer participate and demanded that they remove his name from the list, regardless of the consequences for the group. The affront was too much for the veteran, who turned to the dark-haired guy, completely enraged by the interference in his affairs. The guy, however, was not intimidated in the least. He just thought about how childish and immature the veteran's attitude was. The situation made Han Daol remember his training. He worked so hard at the academy, only to have to deal with senseless provocations like that. He simply couldn't understand why the veteran acted so aggressively, specifically with him. It was a persecution that made no sense. Back in the present, the veteran's anger boiled over. He lunged and grabbed the guy's collar, while the blonde friend tried to prevent the fight from getting worse. The attack, however, was useless. With a quick movement, the dark-haired guy intercepted the veteran's hand, stopping the blow in mid-air. Then, he twisted the aggressor's wrist with impressive ease. Han Daol tried to intervene, asking him to stop, but the demonstration of strength had already been made. The veteran screamed in pain, completely shocked by the guy's absurd strength. He could hardly believe the pressure he felt on his wrist. After releasing him, the guy remained silent. The blonde friend, worried, approached and lamented that because of one person's actions, everyone else was getting hurt. Han Daol tried to intervene, begging the boy to stop. He argued that because of one person, everyone else was getting hurt in the mess. The rookie's patience, however, had reached its limit. After everything he had silently endured, he would no longer stand by and watch the situation unfold. The veteran watched the scene, and for the first time seemed to truly see Han Daol. He murmured the boy's name, as if re-evaluating everything he thought about him. The pink-haired youth didn't look away. He stared at the veteran head-on, without fear or hesitation, making it clear that things had changed from that moment on. The veteran's anger turned into a dangerous interest. He admitted that Han Daol was much more intriguing than he expected, but what he didn't know was that this new dynamic would bring consequences that no one there could foresee.